I'm Jana Greer, 504 Oz Road, Beach Mountain. I'm reading this letter in request of the Leidy family. This letter is sent to the councilman and the mayor. Subject, Emerald's response to June 24th, 2019 special town council meeting. Dear Mayor Castiglione and town council members, the Leidy family is writing this letter on behalf of ourselves and our entities, Emerald Mountain Inc., Emerald Opportunities Inc., Emerald Mountain Development Inc., and the Land of Oz theme park in reference and in response to the comments which were made by your governing body at a special meeting held at Town Hall on June 24th, 2019 to consider a request to pave the Oz Road. We watched the video replay of this special meeting twice to make sure that we captured all the statements which were made by members of your governing body. Many of these statements were inaccurate, and we would like to set the record straight with respect to the inaccurate statements. In addition, and more significantly, some of the stated opinions by your governing bodies were unprofessional and deconstructive for all concerned. Here are some examples. Our business enterprise was referred to by one councilman as one bad actor. The same councilman referred to our business operation as a defunct amusement park. Again, the same councilman stated that our business operation had a 2 out of 4 stars rating. A councilman stated that he wished the town had the power and the money to shut our business operation down. Our business operation was referred to by a councilman as a ripoff, and he quoted a person as telling him that they had just shelled out $50 to walk through a shell. A councilman suggested that if the town found a way to pave the Oz Road, it should be done on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday so that there would be an hour-long delays for patrons of our business. He stated, "If I can't regulate them, well, I can be a petty person. I mean, let's make them sit in a bus for 40 minutes. He further stated, "If we could shut the road down, that would be my vote." While most of the offensive and derogatory comments were made about our business were made by one council person, the reaction on the part of the mayor and the other council members was not to admonish him, but rather to either laugh with him or seemingly support his comments. We are extremely disappointed that the town council would endorse this negative opinion and attitude toward our business enterprise. We would like to set the record straight with respect to the inaccuracies and misinformation given by your governing body at the special meeting. The general consensus of your town council, as stated at the special meeting, is that there is no economic benefit to the town associated with our business operation. Frankly, this is both startling and disturbing in light of the following: tax revenue. Emerald pays approximately $40,000 in property taxes annually. Almost all of our approximately 460 plus acres is open space or allocated to the Emerald Outback. Since most of this raw land is accessible by the Winter Road, we draw very little from town services and resources. Note that the Winter Road is a private road and is privately maintained. You at least did point this out at your special meeting. In addition, we also pay special permit and tent fees to the town of Beach Mountain for our Journey with Dorothy event and our Autumn at Oz event. Town website promotes Emerald businesses. On one hand, you as a governing body state publicly that there is no economic benefit occurring to the town in connection with our businesses, yet Beach Mountain's website lists Emerald's businesses and affiliations 5+ times under Things to Do. The top 10 reasons to visit Beach Mountain list our businesses 3 separate times. In effect, you are using our business affiliations as an attraction or a draw to promote the town of Beach Mountain and presumably to promote tourism, which is, of course, the lifeblood of the town. Occupancy tax. Emerald's events bring large numbers of visitors to Beach Mountain, as these visitors patronize your lodging establishments that pay occupancy tax. One of your council members stated at your special meeting that the town receives no benefits from the occupancy tax collected because that money goes to the Tourism Development Authority. This forces us to state the obvious. The town of Beach Mountain, recognizing the benefits associated with collecting an occupancy tax, received special legislation in 2003 from the North Carolina General Assembly in order to begin collecting occupancy tax from innkeepers in the town of Beach Mountain. The Tourism Development Authority, created by Beach Mountain Town Council, distributes the proceeds in accordance with a budget which is approved on an annual basis. These proceeds are generally used to promote Beach Mountain tourism, but they are also used to fund various specific projects which benefit the town of Beach Mountain. Is there no acknowledgement on your part that this money does in fact benefit the town of Beach Mountain? We are interested to know whether the merchants and other business people in the town would agree with you that occupancy tax revenues do not benefit the town of Beach Mountain and its citizens.
Thank you very much, Dana. Weston Wetzel. Please state your address and your name for our town clerk.
Great. 503 Oz Road, Weston Wetzel. Emerald Outback. As you know, we partnered with the town of Beech Mountain to create an Emerald Outback on our property. This is a significant benefit to the town, and as we submit to you that the town benefits more from the Emerald Outback than our businesses benefit, yet we saw an opportunity to partner with the town in efforts to promote cooperation and goodwill. The Emerald Outback received special discussion on page 127 of the town's 2013 comprehensive plan and was referred to as extremely successful, Exhibit A. Your Emerald Outback website has over 150,000 hits, and it is promoted as a year-round destination. The town receives money from permit fees for private events on the Outback, and the town has hosted events on the Outback, such as Xterra Trail Race, and USA Collegiate Mountain Biking National Championship. We received no property tax credit or any incentive for this easement. We assumed that this public/private joint venture was perceived by the town as a benefit, perhaps not. Note per section 11 of the Emerald Outback easement agreement, unless Emerald as a grantor extends the term, the 10-year easement will expire in November of 2021. This Emerald's partnership with the town and local affiliates since our first Oz reunion in 1988 and then named Automid Oz in 1993 include Emerald contracts with the town of Beech Mountain's police department for our events. This is a financial benefit for your law enforcement officers who wish to engage in secondary employment opportunity. Our events employ hundreds of people and provide local vendors an opportunity to sell their goods. We partner with Beech Mountain Resort for parking and chairlift operation. We partner with Azalea Carriage Transportation Services for transportation and logistics coordination. We donate over $5,000 annually to the Beech Mountain Chamber of Commerce. In excess, over $125,000 have been donated to the Chamber over the years. We donate to our other country and state organizations, including the Avery County EMT, ASU ROTC, and Civil Air Patrol. We support and donate to the town-sponsored fundraisers, most recently the Shane Outpost Park. We engage local architects, engineers, contractors and subcontractors, and other consultants. In short, we have worked hard to be a good member of the community and continue support to the town of Beech Mountain and its merchants and businesses. Much was made at the special meeting of an overwhelmingly negative impact on the Land of Oz operations and Oz Road. Please take note that our use of the Oz Road is very limited. Buses only ran 10 days out of the year for Journey with Dorothy, until this year, only one weekend in the fall. There was very little decision of the real source of the substantial wear and tear of the road. The reality is that year-round consistent traffic comes from other commercial and residential vehicles. Inclement weather is also a large factor in the road's erosion and damage. The notion that infrequent bus use creates widespread road damage is false.
Thank you. Sean Barrett. Again, please state your name and address for our town clerk.
Hi, I'm Sean Barrett for 503 Oz Road. Continuing the letter, on September 10, 2013, the Town Council adopted the comprehensive plan for the future growth and development of the town of Beech Mountain, North Carolina, 2013 to 2030, in which our business and affiliations are listed multiple times and images of our property are frequently displayed. In this plan, strategy TEG1S8, page 121, references the importance of capitalizing on the Oz phenomenon. Is the town satisfying its own objective to capitalize on the Oz phenomenon? As written in the plan, quote, Beech Mountain still conjures associations with the Wizard of Oz. In the eyes of many, we will always be the Emerald Mountain. There is much evidence that an expanded Oz Park would be successful. Perhaps if portions of the park were open for a month or two during the summer. Also, the myriad of Oz fans would be drawn to the nostalgia of an establishment much like an Oz museum that could be open year-round. The opportunities here for merchandising and the attraction are untapped and could, if done properly, be an enormous help to the local economy. Beech Mountain could be a national and even international pilgrimage site for Oz fans. In fact, due to our thoughtful and quality programming, we've attracted international visitors from Russia, Japan, Germany, England, Puerto Rico, and Canada. Domestically, our visitors have come from 49 states, including Alaska and Hawaii. As you can clearly see, the broad reach of our visitors, local, domestic, and international, at our events promotes and advertises the town for free. We perceive this as a positive. The primary industry in the town of Beech Mountain is tourism. Those who make their living in the town rely on tourism. Emerald's businesses do in fact attract thousands of tourists to the town each year, and the economic benefits to the town and the businesses in the town associated with our tourist attractions are a net positive. It is not constructive for a town council to falsely disparage the Land of Oz theme park as you did at the special meeting. It is true that our attendance at our events have been substantial and has continued to grow, which will continue to benefit the local economy. Most notably, the First Lady of North Carolina, Kristen Cooper, visited the Land of Oz during Journey with Dorothy on June 17, 2017. The governor's wife and their daughter had a quote-unquote fantastic journey. Mrs. Cooper posted a very favorable review about the Land of Oz theme park, our staff, and the characters on Twitter and Facebook. In light of your disparaging and highly critical comments, we would like to share other positive social media coverage, other positive media coverage associated with our businesses. Incidentally, contrary to the 2-star comment made by your councilman, we have a rating on TripAdvisor of 4 out of 5 stars, a rating on Facebook of 4.8 out of 5 stars, and a fantastic from the First Lady of North Carolina. The Atlanta Traveler listed the Land of Oz as one of the 45 best things to do in North Carolina for an amazing time. We are extremely proud of our ratings and of our media coverage, and we would submit to you that the positive publicity and coverage is absolutely essential to the economic future of the town of Beech Mountain. Each time the Land of Oz Park is covered in the media, the town is also mentioned, further promoting the town's interest, again at no cost to the town. Recent media coverage has included Good Morning America, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, MSN, USA Today, Newsweek, Southern Living, Smithsonian Magazine. With all this said, does the town feel it is on track to reach its goals that it listed in the 2013 comprehensive plan? What issues and obstacles are prohibiting the town from growth? Is the town supporting a mechanism from growth? It is rather apparent that Emerald is helping the town achieve many of its stated goals. Is the town encouraging and supporting Emerald? Does the current town council's vision differ from the 2013 plan? Do you want the businesses in the town to be successful, or do you want them to fail? Do you want them to bring in new businesses? Please share that vision with all of us. We would request that this letter be included as an agenda item at your next regularly scheduled meeting, and that this letter be made as a part of your minutes in your meeting. It is our hope that you consider our perspective, and that this will prompt some positive dialogue between the town council and Emerald and other businesses in the community. Sincerely, the Lady family.
Thank you, Sean. Cindy Venerable?
Cindy Venables, 1504 Beech Mountain Parkway. Change of subject. I'm here to ask for your support in lowering the speed limit on the extension, Beech Mountain Parkway, gravel extension to 15 miles an hour. I can only speak for this one gravel road because that's where I live. I think that road is unique because at the end of the road where the trailheads are is a large, successful rock business, which we have no beef with. But it does draw heavy traffic from large dump trucks, big Mack dump trucks. And going 25, 30 miles an hour along there is just not safe. Not only, there's several blind curves on the road where you can't see, and not only is it a safety issue for walkers, hikers, families that are walking with their family, people who are walking with their pets, but we also have other contractors not from Beech Mountain, that come up to buy rocks, and they have no interest at all in the safety here. And they really go fast. In fact, I was around the blind curve where the waterfall comes out of the hill, and because of the roar of the water a couple of weeks ago I didn't hear the truck coming until he started down that hill and he used those brakes. What are those brakes called that they've outlawed? What are they called?
Actually, it's an engine brake.
Well, he used that was.
It happens automatically.
Yeah, okay, well, he was going fast enough to set that into motion, and, I mean, I had to scurry out of the way to keep from actually being in his path. I know that people have said that perhaps there is an enforcement issue with putting the speed limit down, but I contend that every road with a speed limit has an enforcement issue. If there's not a policeman sitting on I-40, people can speed. So I think it's just a matter of randomly placing officers, probably not for very long, until people realize that you could get a ticket on that road for speeding over the 15 miles an hour. I think it's also important to mention the dust. If you've never been around a big Mack truck that's going down a gravel road at about 25, 30 miles an hour, it's a lot of dust. And I mean, the foliage actually on the side of the road is gray with gravel dust until it rains again. So, anyway, I think there's several good reasons to consider, at least for that road, to lower the speed limit to 15 miles per hour. And I hope you'll consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. David Conrad. Your name and address, please.
David Conrad, 100 Emerald Forest Lane. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and no one else, and to this good council and to my fellow citizens. I want you to remember something. Every sheet of paper has two sides. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Moving on with our consent agenda, we have the adoption of minutes from June 24th, 2019, the special called meeting, and July 9th, 2019 regular council meeting. We've got the Chapter 94.03 Health and Sanitation typo correction, budget amendment number 2019-14, and the Census 2020 Complete Count Committee appointment. Someone from the Census came up and spoke with Tim, Preston, and I, and the Census folks are really serious about the census starting in April. So they would like us to appoint a Census 2020 Complete Count Committee, which helps advertise and get the word out about the census. So we're going to appoint the planning board as that Census 2020 Complete Count Committee for the town of Beech Mountain. And also part of that consent agenda is the Emerald Mountain letter that you just heard, and that's also part of your package. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I've got a question, please. May we remove item 6.3, budget amendment 2019-14? May we remove this from,
Do you want to remove it from the consent agenda and
Yes.
discuss it? Is that what you want to do?
I'd like to have more information on it.
We can move it under new business. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda with the amendment made to it?
So moved.
Wendell moved. Do I hear a second? Second. Barry second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Bring that down here. Okay. We'll do new business, and we'll go ahead and discuss the budget amendment for number 2019-14.
Man, I'm waiting for Steve to get in here. If you want to switch the next one when he gets here.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go on to the system development fee study by McGill. Dale Shepard will go ahead and present that.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and those in attendance. My name is Dale Sheepers. I'm with McGill Associates. I have just a few items here today in my notebook. Notably, the system development fee study that McGill was retained to perform for the town of Beech Mountain. System development fee is a statutory requirement. It was put in place by House Bill 436. The state legislature, in its wisdom, prescribed how basically impact fees, those fees that are collected for capacity enhancements, to repay debt that's been issued for capacity enhancements, and those sorts of things, how they are calculated and how they are collected and how that money is used. So the first part of that is the system development fee study. Now, just a little bit more history. This came about by a lawsuit that was brought against the town of Carthage, North Carolina. Several developers had made capacity fee payments and were dissatisfied with the amount that they were charged and the methodology that was used to make those calculations. So they brought suit against that town. Several lower court decisions upheld the towns, went to the Supreme Court, the state of North Carolina, that determined that the municipalities did not have the authority to impose these sorts of fees. Okay, so at that point, House Bill 436 was enacted, and it's very prescriptive in terms of how those fees are calculated, the methodology, and the implementation of those fees is also very prescriptive as set forth by the state. First of all, it requires an engineer or a professional financial person to do those studies, hence the need for an engineering firm to do that. I personally did the study. I've done 15 others in the state and followed the methodology as prescribed by the law. Okay, it applies to all capacity-related fees, whether you call them a capital recovery fee, whether you call that a capacity fee, an impact fee, whatever it is, if its purpose is to pay for capacity that's either existing in your system or to be built in your system, then it must fall under the definition of system development fee and be calculated in accordance to House Bill 436. So the next step in the process is to understand that you must conform, your fee structure must conform to House Bill 436 or it is determined to be invalid. Okay, so in other words, if you're collecting fees under a system, under a calculation that has not been conformed to House Bill 436, then that collection of dollars is invalid. Okay? So I'm here to help you get on the road to having valid system development fees, so we can continue to collect those fees to offset some of the cost that's caused by new development coming to town and hooking up to your water sewer system. Okay, that's essentially the reason for and the need for those sorts of fees. Okay, so the methodology is twofold. There's a buy-in component and then there's an incremental component. Buy-in component is to determine what the value of your current assets are that provide that capacity, and then determine a cost per gallon of what that value is. And then you can apply that to a fee structure. Okay? There's an incremental component, which is future, what you need to build in the future in order to provide capacity to the projected demand that you're going to have on your system. Okay? There's also another legal requirement. There is what they call a nexus that needs to be established between your capital program, what you're going to build in the future, to provide the capacity needed for that future development. Okay? That plan has to match up with your projection of capacity needs, your population, your various uses, those sorts of things. So what we use typically is the comprehensive plan. We heard a little bit about the comprehensive plan earlier. It's a very valuable document. Those things are used to make these sorts of calculations. Comprehensive plan says we're going to grow in population at this rate, okay, and then there has to be a nexus, a legal, reasonable relationship between that demand that is caused by that population growth and your capital improvements that you need to produce that capacity to meet that demand. Okay, so in other words, you can't just build whatever you want and charge a fee to make people pay for it and hope that it fits something someday, somehow. There has to be some relationship there, and it has to be reasonable, has to be demonstratable, and that's part of the study as well. Okay, the other basis for methodology is that we use the North Carolina Design Flow Standards, which is the standard that the town has to use when it is planning for additional capacity. Okay, so in other words, there are defined flow rates that say that if you are going to plan for future demand in your system, you have to use these values in order to reach that. Okay, so the importance of that is that if we're going to come to a point to say that new development needs to pay its way, or at least partially pay its way for their impact on that additional capacity they're going to take, well, what we need to do, our approach is to marry that up with the methodology, with the costs that we have to incur as a town when we build it. So in other words, there's a rule that says when you plan to build, you have to use these values. Okay, so we're using that same flow data, that same calculation to say what is that capacity worth when we set a fee for new development to repay for what we're buying, what we're investing in, as I would term as partners in our water and sewer business. Okay, so we want, our goal is to make those calculations based on an equity partner, if you will. If somebody's going to buy into your business, they need to buy it in as an equity partner, so there's fairness amongst the owners. Everybody that pays a water and sewer bill is an owner in the utility. It's the only revenue that the utility gets to operate, maintain, build capacity, maintain capacity, replace capital assets, and the like. Okay, so we're all in this together. So as I calculated this, what I did was I set the maximum allowable. I set a ceiling to say, okay, if we put all this stuff together as prescribed, I'm going to determine what the maximum amount is that we could charge if we so chose as a community for this particular purpose. Okay, from there, it's up to the board to determine where they're going to set that fee. Okay, they can set it anywhere from 0 up to that point, and their fee would be valid in terms of meeting with the law's requirement for making that calculation. Okay, I also provided a calculator that that the town could then generate a number of scenarios. So if we set it at 100%, here's what it would cost for a typical 3-bedroom home, or some commercial property, or whatever the list of uses that are in those design standards. Okay, then we could create kind of infinitely between 0 and 100% what those fees would turn out to be for various scenarios. And I worked with Daniel on kind of looking at that and coaching him along a little bit using the calculator, so you could apply your local conditions, your local preferences and things to arriving at a fee that made sense for Beach Mountain. Okay? So with that, I'll ask if any of the board members or anyone here has any questions about what we've got at this point, and then I'll go on to next steps as we move along.
When this discussion came up a couple years ago, just as maybe when the lawsuit kind of got ramped up, when they were talking about impact fees, it was, especially for Beach Mountain, they were talking possibly, and then of course it went away because the lawsuit hadn't been settled yet, that for people who own property where a house could be built, that there could be a fee to that property even though they weren't using the water. So is that what we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
Okay, that is an availability fee.
Okay.
And that one works differently. If you have water and or sewer available to that property, typically that's within a certain reasonable distance, 200 feet, 300 feet, then the town could choose to apply a fee to those folks that have water or sewer available but aren't taking advantage of using it.
So this study was mandated by the state?
Yes.
And then under House Bill 436, how many of the businesses on Beach Mountain fall under this umbrella?
This is for future development.
Future growth.
So this doesn't affect any ratepayers or any current customers.
So what's the information under on page 42 of 127, where it has businesses, and barbershops, and restaurants,
Oh, okay.
and bars, cocktail,
Okay,
fire
that-
department, hotels?
Those are the design standard numbers. Okay, so in other words, if we have a new development that is a 3-bedroom house, I think it's one of the first ones on the list, will tell you how many gallons per bedroom that house, that development would produce. That's the standard.
The expectations. For that.
Right, that's the number of gallons that the state says, when you design to build capacity in your system, you have to use that number for how many bedrooms you are anticipating in your expansion of capacity. Okay? Then what we do is I've calculated a dollar per gallon value, which you'll find, I think, on page 1 or 2 of the study, that says that at the maximum, you can charge these many dollars per gallon per day capacity, or any amount up to that value. So that's how those numbers work.
Okay.
Anybody from the audience have any questions?
Just a quick question. Why are the sewer maintenance and taps systems being reduced?
That's not part of this discussion.
Oh, yeah, that's not part of the town.
Right, the system development fee is independent of connection fee. Okay, next steps. The town needs to post this on their website, soliciting input and providing a method for receiving written comments. Typically, that's an email address. So for 45 days, it's out there in front of the public on your website. We take comments. I'm sure those comments will come to me to help answer those questions as we have them. And then following that 45-day public comment period, you will then need to adopt the study, and then you can adopt the fee that you choose.
What was the cost of this study?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I just do the work. I'm sorry.
But the study's mandated.
Yes, well, if you want to charge an impact fee / system development fee,
You have to
and
have
if
the
you want it to
study.
be valid, yes.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to, you can choose not to do that. There are a number of towns that do not charge impact fees or system development fees.
So this is optional?
Pardon me?
This is optional?
This is optional.
I would not recommend it be an option.
Right, right.
You know, as well
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you sat on the board long enough to know how expensive
Yeah.
water and sewer is.
Yeah.
If you have new development coming in, you know, why should the cost of the fee to fix things be on the backs of those who are already here?
Right.
Exactly, that's exactly right. In the absence of a system development fee, the ratepayers in your system are subsidizing that capacity that's being used by the next connection, no matter how big or how small it is.
Is that it? Okay, thank you, Dale.
Okay, you're very
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you for your time.
We need to make a motion to call for that public hearing on October 1st, 2019 for this topic. Do I hear a motion for the public hearing? Barry moved. Do I hear a second? Wendell second. Is there any other discussion?
Widener?
Oh, sorry. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Now going back to the budget amendment.
Yes.
This full consent agenda. Back prior to the end of the budget year, we did amendments on as many line items as we could. The only thing remaining from last year's budget was water expenditures. You'll see up there, we had administration, $120,000, water maintenance, $3,000. We actually reduced some expenses there because we didn't spend those items in sewer maintenance and tap and systems. And revenues have been adjusted. The total adjustment amounts to about $52,000 more than originally anticipated. Most of this, the two top offenders are health insurance and additional engineering fees related to projects, not necessarily the amendment or the gate, but there's some ancillary costs for that. So if you've got any more questions on that, Steve's here to try to answer them, or any more detail, we'll do our best to answer that.
So you said that the $53,000 was primarily due to health insurance and what?
Health insurance and professional services for engineering not related to diligent water or defiant water. There's some other engineering costs for the project, and that's what it was.
Do I hear a motion to accept the budget amendment?
So moved.
Barry moved.
Second.
Carl second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, 7.3 on our agenda is ordinance to amend Chapter 153 of Minimum Housing Code, and Mr. Eggers, will you take that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Since at least 1989, the town of Beech Mountain has enforced and had on its books a minimum housing code that applies to residential dwellings and also rental properties that folks use as a residence or a place of habitation. These minimum standards are designed to address health, safety, vermin, those kind of issues. And items that become an issue as to safety are routinely inspected by the building inspector upon receipt of a complaint, and we have an enforcement mechanism. One of the most common items that the building inspector, and Mr. Merritt and I worked on this, one of the most common issues has been the construction or the maintenance of decks to rent, especially to rental properties. As council's aware, in our climate up here, we have a lot of abuse that our decks go through over the years, and some of the houses up here are aging, becoming 40 and 50 years old, and the decks are one of the largest offenders for items that face rot and deterioration. And this proposed ordinance amendment would add decks to our list as to the minimum housing code so that we can avoid an overloaded deck that has rotted and would potentially be subject to collapse. The ordinance also provides for the building inspector to establish a voluntary inspection program where the building inspector would come out and inspect the decks at the property owner's request, and make recommendations to them as to the sufficiency and appropriateness of their decks as to the North Carolina Building Code.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the ordinance?
So moved.
Wendell moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Barry second. Do we have any discussion?
So how are we going to enforce this? Or is the building inspector going to go to every house that's in the rental pool?
Typically, the building inspector operates on a complaint-driven response. So generally, if a building inspector receives a complaint from a resident or a tenant or a neighbor of the condition of a deck or anything under our minimum housing code, that's usually what starts the process for our proceeding. Mr. Merritt and I also have previously worked on what he refers to as the CPR list for condemned buildings, pre-condemnation, and buildings that are in a state of repair. That list is what you have before you. This adds to that list the regulation of decks, so that will be enforced just as any other violation of the minimum housing code.
Well, I'd like to add a little bit to that. What we'll probably do, once this is adopted and passed, we'll probably send out letters to rental properties and let them know that we can perform a voluntary inspection and kind of encourage them to ask us to do that. And so then we'll probably promote it some from our standpoint in addition to complaint basis, but let them know that, it might be advantageous to have their deck inspected.
So rather than have an ordinance, before you said that this was complaint driven. So if we didn't have the ordinance, customers could still complain and the building inspector could go out there and determine whether the deck was safe or not?
Well, there are two prongs to the amendment before you. One is in the event of a complaint, which would prompt an inspection by the building inspector. The other is a voluntary inspection program that does not require a complaint. It is simply a free inspection that property owners can take advantage of. As far as what we have adopted from state statute and then into our ordinance book, if we do not include decks as one of the items that we list, arguably we cannot enforce an issue as to decks for what we would require under the minimum code. And from my consultations with Mr. Merritt and the work that we've done, I'm trying to recall if there's a single property where there's not been a deck with a problem just because of the snow loads that it holds and it's
The age of the building.
the age of the building.
So if the inspection is voluntary,
Or complaint driven.
it's not my question. If the inspection is voluntary, will the homeowner have to make the necessary improvements that the building inspector gives?
If someone requests a voluntary inspection by the building inspector, if they would essentially be at their own peril not to, potentially. If someone were to become injured and they're aware of the situation, they have an incentive to repair their deck, both for themselves or for their tenants. If someone does not make those necessary repairs, then it's a matter as to whether the building inspector determines whether that's a risk to someone's life and safety. If it is a risk to life and safety, the building inspector is going to require them to make those repairs. Certainly, if someone's participating through our voluntary inspection program, we'll give every opportunity and every deference to the property owner who is cooperating with us.
And this was a council priority at retreat this year to perform deck inspections, so this is following up on my priorities established by the council.
And one clarification, I've heard you refer to yourself as rental property. This refers to all homes.
Right.
All homes on the
Yes.
county.
Yes.
You know, we are, all have the same decks.
Old.
Before you might want to comment on this, if a property owner who's not renting out asks for a voluntary inspection versus a homeowner who doesn't rent out asks for an inspection versus a rental property, there's a little bit of difference on that as far as the homeowner, if they're not subjecting anybody else to that.
I can assume that liability. If I want to go out on the deck, you've told me it's unsafe.
You saw it's unsafe, but the building inspector will probably look at it as, okay, well, if you're renting this property out, and we know that, he might be a little bit adamant on trying to get it fixed. But if you're a homeowner and it's not rented out,
Well, I mean, I think all property owners should be encouraged, because the same things we're finding on those decks, you're going to find on everyone's deck.
one thing that's helped out too,
Some of the homes.
that's not even an enforcement issue, when people get ready to sell their houses, there's one less thing to have to worry about if the deck's in good shape.
All I can say is there was years ago when we were on the fire department and people owned a house and they had guests over and they went out on their deck and the deck fell off the house. So they didn't rent it, houses really weren't being rented back then, and they had issues with the guests that fell off the deck. So, you know, it would behoove you if you find out that your deck is not good and you actually invite people over, you still could be held liable for your guests.
I would point out that the minimum standards are not aesthetics. They are, it is a structural
Yeah.
safety
Yeah.
concern that we're addressing. If there's chipping paint or, moss that may be growing
talking
on
about
some of the
structure.
wood, that's not something the building inspector is going to address.
It's the structure.
It is if council were to go out on the deck and would it hold, the council?
If
or
the
would it
joist
fall
is
off?
rotted and you fall through the deck, that's a problem. So, yeah.
But if you have, so are they going to do a structural test on each deck? Say this deck has a load bearing of X amount of pounds? Because what happens if this house has an inspection, it passes, and it typically has 15 people over, and then they have a party or a function or whatever, and they have 60, and the deck falls in. But it got the blessing of the inspector that the deck was safe.
And I'll defer to a licensed building inspector to answer the standards that
We'll
they supply.
we'll inspect it. Typically, any deck for a house, if it's a 3-bedroom house, 5-bedroom house, or 10-bedroom house, it's designed with like 5, 10 pounds, 20 pounds per square foot. Actually, a house line load is 80 pounds per square foot. So the building inspector will go there and look at it. If it had the proper floor joists in, the right span, et cetera, then you wouldn't need a structural analysis. Now, reasonable, we're not going to issue, you can only have 50 people on the deck or 20 people on the deck. It is designed for how many people are supposed to live in the house. So if you do have 100 people on that deck bouncing up and down, it's your problem. It's your problem. It's you have taken on the liability because the building inspector is only saying it meets the inspection criteria for the normal house,
For the
normal
capacity
load,
of the
normal
house.
slow load capacity. And so, that's it. We're not opening ourselves to any more liability. The homeowner has some responsibility for what happens in that case.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against?
Against.
1 nay. Motion carries. We have a presentation for the proposed amendment to Chapter 50.00 to 50.99 for the solid waste management ordinance, and Sarah Lapish will present that.
Mayor, Sarah comes up. I just want to comment. Sarah is the intern who's worked with us all summer for Appalachia State. She's getting ready to go back to school. This is her last day on the job officially, so she has to do 2 presentations. She's presenting this information tonight. We're not saying we're asking for adoption tonight, maybe on the Adopt Street program, but I just want to let you know, we understand there probably will be some questions, and now I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Okay, so this is the proposed changes to the Chapter 50 Solid Waste Management ordinance. And so the purpose of this proposed changes is to prevent animals from getting into the trash and knocking it over, which would then have the trash in the environment and would affect the natural beauty of Beech Mountain. So there's going to be 4 sections. The first section is 50.05, preparation of garbage to receptacles. And in red, that is the changes. So basically, if an owner does not desire trash pickup by the town, they can speak with the Public Works Superintendent or sign a waiver. And if they do this, then they must take their trash to the convenience center, because you can't just set it out on the side of the road in bags. And so also the trash in the receptacles must be bagged. We don't want loose trash. And then there's been a change of like the receptacle size. So it used to be 30 to 35 gallons. Now the enclosures can hold 30 to 45 gallon containers. Any receptacles larger than that isn't going to be permitted. And then after this is adopted, the open enclosures that originally were on the mountain would be considered non-conforming, and they would be okay until they receive a letter from Public Works or the zoning official because a bear or a raccoon has gotten into their trash and spread it everywhere, contaminating the environment and hurting the beauty of Beech Mountain. So on to 50.06, contractor waste and debris. So again, the red is the changes, but construction debris, scrap materials, waste, and solid waste generated by contractors shall not be collected by the town, neither by weekly garbage collection or special pickup. And the responsibility of disposal of the waste and debris will be on the contractor per chapter 94, and it will not be accepted at the town's convenience center, whether or not you're a contractor or a homeowner. So 50.09, the convenience center, recyclables, and separated materials. So it shall be unlawful for any person to dispose of any waste generated by hired or contracted workers at the town's convenience center. Each person will have an allotted 4 special pickups per year, and bagged leaves now will be limited to 10 bags. If you need more than that picked up, there will be a charge, and any special pickups past the 4 allotted per year will also have a fee per the cost of labor and equipment. And then yard trash, including limbs, may be picked up by the town with a restriction on the pile, and this can happen once a month. However, the town will not collect any tree trunks, stumps, root balls, large limbs from view cuts or lot clearing, and no limbs in excess of 6 inches in diameter. Now to the last portion, which is 50.10, which is the garbage bin specifications. So I've given you guys sample drawings of the new specifications. These were drawn by a staff member here. And basically the garbage bin is being proposed to have a slope. Heavy duty metal trash enclosures are encouraged just because it's harder for the bears and other animals to get into them. However, wooden ones will still be allowed. If you were to do a wooden enclosure, all the materials would have to be pressure treated so it can withstand weather and time. Also, we want these bins to be as solid as possible, so we no longer want the 3/4 of an inch space between pickets. Everything has to be solid with minimal spacing. Latches must be secured by heavy-duty cabinier, which is a spring class. We want bins to be situated near ground level, no longer on ground level, because with it being on the ground, it rots from the bottom up. But if it's situated near ground level, such as on like a concrete pad or sticking out of the ground, but is concrete into the ground, it'll last longer. Metal roofing is encouraged to help shed the rain, snow, and ice. And bins must be constructed with screws and not nails, because nails are not very heavy duty. It allows for them to be pulled apart easier. And then cans must fit entirely within the bin, and they must be secured when closed. That way, there's no gaps. All right, any questions?
Thank you for providing this information. I have a few. So, I don't think any of this ought to be adopted until we get a compactor at the recycling center.
Yeah, it's not meant to be voted on today. It's more for informational purposes, so you can peruse it and see where we go from here.
Okay. And then the next question I have, comment, is I think we need to establish a standard. I mean, these drawings are okay. It really doesn't give you a whole lot to look at. And I think that, I understand it's just, it's for conversation purposes, but, having plywood and pressure treated lumber, I think we need some examples of an all metal bin.
Yeah.
Because once you have an all metal bin, you never have to repair it again.
Yeah.
Once you stick it in the ground, cement it in, if we went to a company that manufactured these, like what the national parks use, and if this is the direction that we go in, go to a couple companies and have them bid on Beach Mountain's bins.
Now, that, just to comment on that, that's a little bit separate from this issue, because we're looking at it, the homeowners will get the bins. That would be different if the town contracted out to supply these bins. But I do, agree. I mean, if council wants to make it, all new bins have to be metal, not even loud wood, you know, you could do that.
We already talked about that.
Now, one thing I was thinking about the compact recycling center, I need to kind of get a consensus, if that's what you want to wait on, because what we were going to ask today is, you've seen this, reflect on it. If you'll send Robert and I emails about what you think should be changed or whatever, we're going to compile that and bring it back. I had intended on bringing it back before that compact, because this probably will be 12 months or more before that's ready. But if, you know, if y'all just want to make comments and you don't want to bring it back till then, I need to know the general consensus.
Explain to me why you think we should wait till the compactor. I don't understand.
Well, I think we have a double standard because this here says that the purpose of the garbage enclosure is to prevent animals from knocking over or gaining access to the trash and the negative impact of trash facilities on the natural beauty and property values of Beach Mountain. So, I mean, the convenience center has, you know, an open top
Bear issues.
and bear issues. And I think that we need to, you know, whatever policy.
You're saying we should conform if we're.
Absolutely. If we're asking the public to conform to it, I think that, you know, we need to take the first step and set an example and not have a double standard.
The second question is, I think we have an ordinance right now, if you sell your house, you must have a container, a trash bin.
I think it's a rental house.
Now, if we're removing them, if somebody, like I remove mine because I don't use it, if I sell my house, am I required to put it in back?
I need to check on, is that the ordinance? Robert? I'll see Robert, because I'm not sure what it is.
Like,
If they're getting ready to sell their house, they have to put it in, or just a little service again? He's talking about, like, for example, you had a container in your house, and you got rid of it, and you stayed to the recycling center. I didn't think the ordinance said you had to put it in before you sold it. I just thought before you got service again. Okay, so it's not that just
So
to
it's
sell.
not a requirement.
No, it's not if you sell.
But
It's just-
if somebody buys the home.
They would have to
And
do
wants
it.
to have,
It won't take
wants to have
curbside.
garbage pickup, then they have to buy a container.
Correct. Correct. Well, what I'm hearing now, then, it sounds like, I still would like y'all to send me your comments, because we may bring this back a time or two, and if we hold on adoption till the compactors in place, at least we'll have this, because if we don't follow up, I think we kind of fall through the cracks again.
Well, I think White is making a good point. If we're not going to conform ourselves, then we can't force anybody else.
Bless you.
So we can have discussion about it, but until we're ready that our recycling area is completed, the new area, then I think we can ask people to conform to the new standards. But, you know, having some discussion about it, I don't see a problem, but I don't see any motion on it whatsoever until then.
I think comparing the dock and the efforts we're making to deal with the excess trash over the increased traffic holiday weekends is different than what we're talking about here, which is a residential requirement, trash on the streets.
And there is.
We have the open dump in response to one councilman's desire that there be less trash visible at the dump. This is a completely different issue and in no way a double standard.
Well, the other issue is safety. You know, I think we had an incident a couple weeks ago where a rather large bear was at the recycling center. And, I mean, our residents and visitors are aware of the bear activity at the recycling center. And I think that stems from the open top. You know, as much as I had pushed for an open top to try to, you know, reduce the eyesore of all the trash there, if it's going to be another 12 months, I think we need to look at another option. And again, this is from a liability standpoint. Somebody goes to the dump and they want to take pictures and get attacked by a bear. Well, what did Beach Mountain do to prevent this incident? And the liability could potentially be on Beach Mountain.
Well,
I think we're talking about two.
Yeah, but we have supervision there. And so
At 8 o'clock at night?
Well, the dump is closed, so if somebody wants to do it at 8 o'clock at night,
They're taking
they're on responsibility.
But I think you're talking about two different issues. I mean, we're talking about what Carl said, we're talking about trash at residential areas, which creates a litter issue, environmental issue, and a safety issue with bears coming through your property. You got people putting bags of trash on their driveway when it's garbage day. They don't have bins, they have garbage pickup, but they're putting their trash on their driveways. I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing to do. As far as the convenience center, we do need to work on something. If a bear shows up, my opinion is you shut it down and maybe get the police out there with their beanbag gun and chase the bear away, and then you open it up. Don't leave it open when there's bears in the recycling center.
You kind of just describe what happens.
That doesn't solve the problem, though. What if you get a bear there 7 nights a week? I mean, and they're probably there at least 5 nights a week.
But that's at night, and it's not open at night. And so, I mean, right now, there's nothing we can do about the recycling center with the open tops. I mean, there just isn't. We've got those 2 huge dumpsters. They've got open tops, and we've made it very convenient for the bears by putting stairs next to them. And I'm sure they're very thankful for us to do that. So, I mean, and the stairs are wonderful. I'd love to have those in my house, but there's nothing we can do about that now. I guess the question is and I understand what he's saying, and I understand and almost and kind of agree with it, but do we want to wait 12 months to 2 years to start having people conform to stopping it at the residential level? And that's what I think these are discussions will be. We'll have this discussion again. We're not prepared to vote on this now. It's all just to talk about, and we'll end up having these discussions again and see where we want to go with it.
Well, I mean, to my mind, this is Public Works' response to our debate of not eliminating curbside, that is
That we already voted.
the will of the residents to maintain it. This is what is going to be required of the residents that wish to maintain that service. Waiting for us to complete the dump is not impacted by moving forward on a debate that we had, thoroughly covered all sides of.
Which we also have raised the fine sufficiently.
And we raised the fines in lieu of making
$500.
everybody get bear-proof dumpsters, because we thought, why are we going to penalize the people who are doing the right thing as opposed to the people who are doing the wrong thing? So, and that was our discussion and our vote at that time. So, and we'll find out if the fines have done any difference at some point.
I think the fines are working. We keep updating those, that type of things, and ultimately, if they have 5 attempts,
they lose their service anyway.
Then they have to get a
Right.
dumpster that will work.
Right.
One thing I just hear, I sound like consensus, we just asked, staff asked that you read through this, email Robert and I comments, and then at some point, 60, 30, 60, 90 days, we'll bring it back and look at it one more time. And then from that point, you can decide what date you want to make it effective. But we do ask you to go ahead and read through it, make comments, and I'll send out some reminders, and we'll just go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Now, Sarah has another presentation. She's going to be great, the Adopt a Street program.
All right, so the Beach Mountain Adopt a Street program is something that I started on the very beginning of my internship. So the purpose of the Adopt a Street program is to encourage the community to be more involved, and by being involved, they can keep the town looking beautiful and free of litter. And the sections of your Adopt a Street packet includes the agreement, the contact persons, the participants' signatures, youth participation release form, guidelines and responsibilities for volunteers, and then guidelines and responsibilities for the town of Beach Mountain, safety procedures for volunteers, and then the Adopt a Street sign design form. So the agreement, is between the town of Beach Mountain and the individuals who wish to participate in the Adopt a Street program, and this acts as a contract between the town and the participants, just saying, I will do this, and it also releases the town from any responsibility if something were to happen. So for the guidelines and responsibilities of volunteers, we want coordinators to be at least 21 years age or older, and we want to coordinate cleanup dates with the Public Works Department while Also requiring the volunteers to pick up litter and trash at least 4 times per year. And one of those cleanups would have to be done in April when you guys have your cleanup initiative. So the guidelines and responsibilities for the town of Beech Mountain. The town of Beech Mountain will provide the supplies needed to do cleanups. They will also have the Public Works Superintendent approve sections of streets to make it safer for volunteers to do the cleanups. And then also a road sign will be placed at the site that you clean up. And then for safety procedures for the volunteers, basically you just want to use a buddy system, look out for each other, don't attempt to work in inclement weather, and just be safe overall when doing this project. All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
How does council feel about voting on this tonight, or would you like to wait?
I'd like to wait.
I sort of agree. I think we need to have a chance to look it over, so if there's
Review it.
something we'd like to change.
All right, we will bring it up again then. Thank you
But I
very
like
much.
the idea.
Yeah, I love the idea too. I'm already thinking about my street.
You got a long street.
I do.
Your street is in the woods, we can't find
Mr. Holloman?
All right, staff reports, manager reports. Once again, I want to say kudos to the Parks and Rec and the police department and all the other agencies that helped us, the National Night Out. Thanks, Chief Barnett, that side there. We typically do this every other year. We're very proud that we started it in the high country. Not many people did it before us. Chief Barnett became chief. It was the first year we did it. We have a rotation with Banner Elk where we do it every other year. So next year will be Banner Elk, and those participating agencies will be down there. The ski resort, also kudos to them. They let us have it there this year, requested it. We had the helicopters fly in. People were spread out on 3 different levels, so there was no crowding. And I think people had a great time, and we were blessed with good weather. So we'll look to have that event back in Beech Mountain in 2021. Also, just to update, some of the people may have forgotten about it. But back in December and January, we actually put inclinators or inclometers down at the Buckeye Rec Center to monitor the stabilization of the hill there. We've had a couple readings back. Ryan and I were reviewing that today. We have 2 more scheduled for this year. But at this point, they're not to take any settlement, which is a good thing. So we'll probably go till May or June, and when we have no settlement for almost 12 months, we'll probably take out that pavement area, repave it, and put that back as it should be. The plans are now still to continue to monitor it for a total of 3 years to take away the need or concern about having to try to stabilize the whole hill there. So that's what we're looking at on that. Okay, good morning. Good news finally about streetscape. That's been on hold for a couple months now due to some of the subcontractors not being DOT certified contractors. Our special projects director informed me today the last thing in the puzzle is waiting on a certified surveyor. So hopefully that week work can begin until the fall. We're crossing our fingers, and we'll bring back more information when we have that. August 29th at 2 p.m. is the bid opening for the new Public Works salt building and recycling convenience center we have. So we'll be on pins and needles waiting for that bid opening. We had a successful pre-bid meeting last week. Anybody who wants to bid on it has to be at that meeting. I think we had probably 8 contractors and 12 total. Some were suppliers, 2 contractors, so we had a good turnout for that. Also, many of you are aware we don't pick up hazardous waste, and we're targeting Avery County to do that. On August 24th from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. They'll be taking, Avery County will be taking the pesticides, et cetera. We have handouts down at the recycling center, convenience center, if you want to pick those up. And I think
Say that again. That last.
Hazardous materials will be picked up by Avery County, but I think the location is going to be behind the Avery County Board of Education in Newland. So that's where you have to go if you want to take your hazardous materials.
Okay.
I think also Watauga County offers it 1 day a month now. I'll be finding out more about that.
Between April and October, they'll take household hazardous materials one day a month. I think the next one is either September 10th or September 13th. If you go online and look for the Boone, North Carolina landfill, they have a website, you could get that information.
And one reason we don't do it here, we have to have additional personnel and training, and it's more expense than the convenience would allow, so that's why we don't have it here. Let's see, August 25th is the Enduro. Is Sean here anywhere? Sean, you come say anything about it?
August 25th, we'll have the Beach Mountain Enduro. This will be the third year for this race. We anticipate 200 plus mountain bikers. We've had about 160, 170 the past 2 years. There's been a lot of social media going on with new trails being built and the expansion with the resort, the Emerald Outback. So I think just creating more of a buzz is going to help us out. So talking to the police chief and telling him some routes that we're going to be using. So just a heads up on that Sunday. Practice is Saturday. The race is on Sunday. Race is going to start, I think, at 9 a.m. Everybody should be off course by 2 o'clock. But if you're driving up North Pinnacle Ridge and see a ton of mountain bikers, that's what's going on. We're not shutting any roads down. Everything's still going to be open. Just be aware there's going to be a lot of bikers up here that weekend.
Drive carefully.
And the last thing, just remind everybody, August 31st to the 1st is the Kite Festival, the annual Kite Festival. That's all I have, Mayor. Oh, town hall meeting, yep, the 22nd. August 22nd from 4 to 6 at Buckeye Recreation Center is the town hall meeting. That's the general meeting where people can come and talk about any topic they want to talk about, and town council will be there.
There's no topic.
We have no topic. We may give an update on the proposed deer harvest a little bit, but there's no assigned topic for that evening.
Council comments, Carl.
As always, thank you everyone for coming. Ms. Venables, you sat through all this. I'm going to speak to you first. I received your letter, and I did drive the Lower Beach Mountain Parkway, and would agree that this is one of the roads that needs a lower speed limit. I cannot support lowering it across all gravel roads, but I certainly believe the residents along that road let us be here, bring us a request. That is something, if you haven't done it, you should drive down there. She's absolutely right. And now to the fun part. This bad person you heard about was me, obviously. So let me address some of the comments from earlier, clarify my position. Those of you that know me know I tend to speak off the cuff directly, but have strong opinions. That being said, perhaps I was unprofessional in my comments, but in no way, shape, or form does that change my position. You know, let's talk a little about us. This is nostalgia. Now, I'm willing to venture that I toured the park in its full operation more than any 10 people in this room combined. You know, it was a part of my growing up here. When the reunion happened, you know, this was nice and it was attended. And then when it became a once-a-year festival, while an inconvenience to the property owners up there and the stress on the town, it was once a year. And everybody can put up with something one weekend a year. But let's make no mistake about what this is becoming. This is not a nostalgic trip. This is a commercial enterprise. This year we've seen it grow to 7 or 8 weekends with the addition of additional weekend in the fall. If the rumors are to believe, further expansion of this enterprise is planned and expected. There's so many points to clarify. Attack the pavement first. I probably shouldn't have referred to them as bad actors, more accurately, bad neighbors. Specifically for any of us that live on the ridge, particularly for the property owners that live at Emerald Mountain and along North Pinnacle Ridge. To use safety as a reason to not support paving the road, I mean, that's a specious and self-serving argument. That's simply about money. Yeah. their claims that drives the occupancy tax. Now, I came to this board by beginning on the TDA, spending a great deal of time working on that. They bring visitors, undeniably. These are day trippers. These are not putting heads in beds. The goal, of the mountain, of TDA and all of us should be the growth of residents, the growth of service to residents, and our enjoyment of the community we all love. The statistics they want to give are, you want to live at Ghost Town in the sky? Let's all move to Maggie Valley. I don't particularly want to. Sorry. The references in the comprehensive plan. I worked on this again. Look at the time. When it was written, we were dealing with a once a year, one weekend festival that was an attraction. It was an event. It was something there. Again, the most directly impacted residents of the town. Let the water roll off their back. We'll put up with it for a weekend. Let's plan our trip away. The continued, this continued growth, I believe strongly, will be a net negative to the town. I guarantee if you speak to the residents of Emerald Mountain impacted, they already feel it is one. If you don't feel it's negatively impacting their property values, the quality of the life that they came here to enjoy and build, then you're not listening to the right people. I wear a lot of hats, those of you that know me, and I speak to a lot of people. I'm not an internet guy. I go on the feedback I get from people, and mine has been predominantly negative. So that is one of my fears as to why it will be a net negative. This is what I'm hearing from folks that I talk to. And Beech Mountain is, unfortunately, closely associated. People don't realize this is a private, for-profit enterprise. This is not the town of Beech Mountain reliving its past. There's a lot of things from the past, Carolina Caribbean, the POA, that belong in our past, our history. The purpose of this board, the purpose of us as residents, is to look to our future and what we want our mountain to be. It's about all the stats they want. This is not bringing people who are looking to buy a home, who are looking to move here, who are looking to invest in our town. They're coming for a day. There are short-term economic benefits, undeniably, to the restaurants and Fred's and those others, but this is not a sustainable, long-term vision and growth of what we want. I believe the references in the comprehensive plan should be removed from it. They were at a time when it was an annual thing. As to regulation, if this is going to continue to grow, absolutely. Compliance to all regulations should be strictly enforced, same as it is for every other commercial enterprise on the mountain. In case you're not wondering, I'm not a fan. I live on the ridge, big part of my life. Rumors spread from, I own everything I said. Did I say it properly? No, I probably didn't, but I tend not to. But, in no way does that change my position that this will be a net negative for our town. As always, thank you everyone for coming, for listening, and your participation.
Barry?
On August 22nd, we're going to have a general meeting for the public, and we're open to all subjects. And if you want to have further discussion about Oz, I would be glad to address it. And I think it got a little bit out of hand. The whole reason for the special meeting wasn't for Oz. It wasn't brought up because we wanted to discuss Oz. Personally, myself, I've been through it. I enjoy it. I think a lot of people, businesses enjoy it. It has expanded, and the people up there are the ones that are concerned, not us. They're bringing that, I know you watched the video, and it probably didn't really show. I should have worn my makeup, it probably would have looked a little better, but each person has their own opinion of what they think it's worth. But at the point, the residents were the ones who were making the complaint, not us. And so I think if we can get together with us, the residents, if we pave the road, everybody participates in it, you'd be surprised how less comments we get from the people up there. Because the real complaint that they're having is the dust and everything else that's happening to the road. The town is spending a ton of money maintaining that road. In fact, we've even considered, and then we changed our mind, but we were even considering doing it without the 51% that is required by the mandate that we have. Because we're spending, I believe you said, somewhere around, what, $8,000? $8,000 to $10,000 a year to maintain that road. So a little more cooperation, and we certainly do appreciate Emmer Outback. There's no question about it. I mean, you just heard from Sean. I mean, we're gonna have 200 people up here that are gonna use it. So, yeah, we certainly appreciate what you've done for us, what you've done for the town, and I don't want you to think that we don't appreciate it, but we have to look at the overall scope of things. And if we can all find a common ground to make this thing work for everybody, I'd like to see it happen. That's all I got.
Next.
So I have some serious concerns relating to the council vote taken at the last meeting concerning the Lake Coffee Storage Building project. The council was asked by the town manager to approve additional funding above the $50,000 already spent for the architectural plans for the bathrooms and storage facility with an estimated construction cost of $800,000. The facility grew from a storage building with bathrooms estimated by the town manager to cost $150,000 to a community center with a meeting room and kitchen estimated to cost $800,000. The council already voted to stop the project without spending any additional monies for a building that all agreed would never be built. The town wasted $50,000. During the discussion, the town manager stated, staff recommends that we continue with the design and put the plans on the shelf, wasting an additional $8,000 plus estimated by our town manager. My questions are, who are the staff the town manager was referring to? Who approved for the architect to design a facility well beyond the scope approved by this council? Who is being held accountable for wasting $50,000 of taxpayers' money with nothing to show for it? This is becoming a pattern where the town funds projects well outside of the budget on non-priority matters, ignoring those areas that desperately need funding. When will someone be held accountable? Thank you.
Wendell?
Yeah. I also want to chime in on what Barry was saying about Emerald Outback. It is an asset to the town, and I hope and pray that that does continue going on into the future. The other thing I wanted to comment on this evening, the two people involved aren't here actually today, but it came to my attention, Carol Beckman sent me a note via email. She's already left, she was here earlier. And she brought to my attention that somebody that does a lot for the town in a lot of ways, a gentleman by the name of Frank Steele and his wife just recently are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Oh, wow. And he's not here, but if you happen to run across him in town, please congratulate him and his wife, Billy, I believe. Billie Jean. On reaching 50 years. I don't think too many married couples manage to make that part. So I think if you happen to run into them, wish them well.
Thanks, Brenda. I know that.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Just address, and I'll
Yeah.
keep it specific to this to address
That's fine.
Widener's request. Widener, the scope of the possible building was increased after myself, and then Barry was appointed to sit. Wanted to see if that was the best usage of simply having a storage facility there. My idea was this is a key part of the Parks and Recreation facility. I wanted to see what more it could be. You know, the building was never built, as you say, and all that, but, you know, I certainly question your math as to a wasted 50, and if you'll recall, I feel that we foolishly didn't spend the 8 to get the completed plans at that point because we had paid for that work. You know, professional services cost money. The drawings, the rendering, the surveying that was done was already spent money. You know, so to say it's wasted and pulled away from other priorities, I think is slightly misinformed and misleading to the public. Thank you for the opportunity to address that one question.
I'm going to address Oz. I was told that it was brought up that the council did not admonish Councilman Marquardt for his comments. And I want to make it clear that in this council, every council member has an opportunity to express their views, no matter what they are, without somebody saying, you know, shame on you and you're wrong. Everyone has a right to express themselves without being admonished. And I wrote that to the Leidy family. With that said, it did not mean that the rest of the council agreed with that. I worked at Fred's for 13 years, and I can tell you that there was a lot of business from Oz, and it does do the businesses well. I've talked to Calder, and he says that his rentals go up for one night. With the Thursday date, they've added a night, so they have had additional rentals. And I do think it's a benefit to Beach Mountain. I understand what's going on with the homeowners. We're just a council. We're not miracle workers here. So hopefully that will end up working its way out somehow. But the original meeting was to discuss a road. It got sidetracked to talk about Oz. And as mayor, I probably should have brought it back. I tried to bring it back, and I did bring it back. But people are allowed to express themselves, whether you agree or not agree. And I do think Oz is I know people where I work at Holiday Beach Villas, they get a lot of rentals for that. So it must be doing something if people are coming, and it's a great benefit as far as all the businesses concerned. I always think that the brick oven is really busy, and then on Oz weekends, I can't believe how busy it is. So it's obviously doing business, it's helping businesses, and that's what we want on Beach Mountain. We want to help our businesses, especially if it helps them get through the months where there is nobody up here except for us crazy people who live here all year round. So whatever that can do to help those businesses survive those dead months is a good thing. So that's my Oz comment. I do want to mention National Night Out. Chief Barnett and his staff and the Parks and Rec, Tim Holloman already mentioned that, but it was great. And I look forward to the next one. I wish it was next year. But I want to mention Jana. She sang the Star Spangled Banner, and it was awesome, just awesome. And I know, like during football games, they get somebody out there who can sing like the national anthem. Anybody knows anybody for the Carolina Panthers, you need to get Jana to sing the national anthem at a Panthers game, because she did a wonderful job, and it gave me goosebumps. So thank you for doing that. I had no idea. And with that said, it's time for citizens' agenda comments. Anything you may want to discuss that was discussed in this meeting prior. Does anybody want to come up and talk? David?
I just have a question.
That's all right. Just come on up so you can get on the microphone.
The two gentlemen that spoke after Jana, what was their address listed as?
503 Oz Road.
Is that where you live? They live with you?
Sorry?
503, do you live at 503 Oz Road?
When we're here producing the events, we do.
I'm sorry?
When we're here producing the events, we do live up here, yes.
But you're not citizens here.
We were here speaking on behalf of the ladies.
We're not going to do that. You can do that in private time. We're not
Well, I
gonna
just
do that.
want
I
everybody to
understand
know
what
that
you're
they're not,
doing.
they're not.
I understand, but we're not going to do that here. Would
May I ask
anybody,
why not?
because this is not the venue to discuss whether you think they live there or not.
They just said they did.
Anybody is welcome to come up during public comments. You don't have to be a resident. Anybody is welcome at our council meetings to come up and talk at public comments.
Should they not list their residence where it
doesn't
is?
make a difference.
When they're here, yeah.
If they're here and they live here, we're not going to get into that because it offends you, I'm sorry.
And we're not here to confront them, they're making their opinion.
They have a right to speak.
That's what it's.
We need to keep in mind, if I could, I'm going to interject here,
That's fine.
that anybody has the right to come to a council meeting and talk, whether you're a permanent resident or not. We have approximately 350, 375 full-time residents. If conversations at council meetings were limited to full-time residents, the people who are summer residents and have summer homes would really have a good reason to say they are being abused. And we're not going to do that. And everybody has the right to come here and talk.
Would anybody else like to speak? Joe, come up to the podium, please.
Give
And
your
give your
name
name and address.
Joe Antonell, 484 St. Andrews Road. Just a comment and a suggestion for the council when you're considering the amendment to the solid waste. If I understood correctly, the specifications that are being looked at for containers would ultimately be the responsibility of the homeowners, if I'm not mistaken, or at least that's what's being proposed. I'd just like to suggest that maybe the council look at soliciting some bids from companies that would provide a standardized type of container at perhaps a discounted price that the town could support and make that available to the homeowners. That would greatly simplify the efforts we have to make to conform to the new
I
standards.
think, Tim, didn't you get some guys that came up with that?
We have 3 different names of companies we usually
Thank
give out. One of them
Thank
is
you,
located
Joe.
out of Blowing Rock, and that's where you see the postcards up. They're significantly cheaper than the others. Still expensive depending on how you look at it, but you don't have shipping and all that. So it's not that we're endorsing it, but we do have the information now.
So we do have that if people need it. Would anybody else like to speak? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Wendell moved. We have a second. All in favor? I understand what you're doing, but otherwise it was going to do back and forth, and it's not going to. If they live there part-time, then that's fine. He said they live there when they can return it. I'm not going to get into that.
If a renter